Alrighty, let's do a news of the day type video. And then I'm going to have some fun with it at the end, because why not? The New York Islanders re-signed Michael Del Cole and Josh Hosang. Del Cole gets an average of $700K. I believe it's 2 years for him and 1 year for Hosang. At $874K, why does Del Cole get a lower cap hit than Hosang? That's weird, because if I had to say which one's going to be a regular in the NHL this season, I would vote with Michael Del Cole over Josh Hosang. I think Hosang, this is probably his last shot at a regular job in the NHL. I would think if he doesn't make the roster this fall, they may look at moving him, because something's got to give, and this is a guy who has some talent, and maybe with the right moves could end up being a National Hockey League player. Agent Don Meehan, Matt Tkachuk's agent, has come out and said that he provided a guideline. So sort of a framework for the Calgary Flames early in June. Said this is what we're looking for. And I'm getting the feeling he means both term and dollar value. And that it's been a waiting game since then. So they're still negotiating. They're still talking about it. But basically the way that Meehan frames this, it looks like here's what we want. Here's for how long. And we're kind of waiting for the Flames to come to where we are. So they're still talking. But I get the feeling this is happening with a lot of them. That the idea that everybody's just waiting on Marner, I don't think so. I think every negotiation's just along the lines of, all right, we'll just wait then. I really think the watermark was set by Austin Matthews getting 5 years instead of 8. I think that's where a lot of these restricted free agents went, oh, yeah, it makes more sense for us to cash in 5 years rather than wait the full 8 years. And then Sebastian Aho, the contract he got from Montreal, that again, 5 years. So these guys are looking at it going, yeah, we should just get 5. We should sign for 5, and then some of us will go UFA, some of us will still be restricted free agents, but just thinking how much more value we'll have 5 years from now, rather than waiting for 8. So I think that's where we're at. I don't necessarily know that Marner's holding everything up. I think it's just a matter of, hey, this is the new deal that all the restricted free agents want, and we're willing to sit around and wait until we get it. 1 year, $850,000 contract for Valeri Nichushkin for the Colorado Avalanche. And all I have to say with Nichushkin is, God, I hope he comes in motivated. I would hope that $850,000 means he's motivated. Nichushkin is very frustrating. He has the talent. He has the size. Everything's there. You get him out on the ice, and it turns into nope. There were a lot of Stars fans that felt it was Lindy Ruff's fault, that Lindy Ruff pushed him back to the KHL. Then he came back over to play the last couple of years in Dallas, and no. So it's not been the coaching that was the problem in Dallas. Maybe a change of scenery will help him. Maybe playing with these guys in Colorado will help. One thing that's interesting that's going on right now is Jesse Puljujarvi. So he was talking to a Finnish TV station, and again, when it's a European article or it's a European interview and you know it's being translated, I always take it with a grain of salt. Puljujarvi apparently is eyeing a top 6 role in the NHL wherever he gets traded. Now, here's where it gets tricky. To just say I want a top 6 role on a new team, that makes for a splashy headline. That makes for, hey, look at this guy. He wants this and he hasn't done anything to deserve it yet. Or the way he's putting it is, ideally, I want to have a top 6 role in the NHL to show I can do this, that I'm a National Hockey League player. So I don't necessarily read this as I expect to be handed a top 6 role, although that is the way that some may view it. I just see it as a guy who's confident. What else is he supposed to say? I'd be really happy to be picked up by a team that'll bury me on the 4th line, and maybe I get sent down to the American League because I really like buses. No, he's going to say this because he wants a top 6 role, and he believes in himself. And in his eyes, it has not helped him playing for Edmonton. That the Edmonton Oilers organization has not been conducive to his career turning around and for him to get to where he wants to be. Carolina revealed their new road jerseys today, which is why I'm wearing this. Of course, it's a word mark. It just says Canes across it. I'm underwhelmed. I'm going to be honest. It's got the hurricane flag on the shoulders. Adidas has tweeted it out. The NHL's tweeted it out. I thought, wow, that's the big wow thing that Tom Dundon wanted in the road jerseys. I knew he didn't like these, but yeah. Anyways, This logo doesn't appear anywhere on the road jersey that I saw. So maybe the Carolina Hurricanes are thinking about moving to the flag as their logo, and maybe it's ditching this. So yeah, I don't know. I'm glad they like them. I'm sure they'll sell really, really well. But word marks, people who watched my jersey collection videos know I'm not huge on word marks. So I'll have it because I need something to go with my bolts and sends. But notice the bolts and sends didn't show up on my countdown either. Something interesting that's been out there, and maybe there's something to it. Jake Gardiner being an unrestricted free agent, even still, doesn't make any sense to me. It's weird. Because Jake Gardiner, I know he didn't have a fantastic year. I know how Game 7s turned out for him with Toronto. But he should be a National Hockey League defenseman this coming season. He should have a job. So the fact that he's still waiting, I think there's maybe something to the idea that he's got a verbal agreement with Kyle Dubas, but they don't know the number until Marner signs. So Gardiner may very well be waiting on Marner more so than a guy like Tkachuk in Calgary, where he's like, all right, I'll come back and I'll even play for less. And Dubas says, fine, that's great, Jake, we'll bring you back, but I got to get Mitch under contract first. You can't give Gardiner, say, like $3 million, and then that eats into the money you're going to give Marner. So it may very well be that once they've got an idea with Marner and they get that on paper, then Jake Gardiner signs like a day after or maybe that same day. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And if they brought back Gardiner and if he's on a more, let's just say, reduced role, I don't think it hurts him. I think Jake Gardiner's a productive defenseman. I think he's a good defenseman who has been probably given more ice time and in situations than... in certain situations, he probably shouldn't have been on the ice, and I think he's been given more ice time than he should get. I think he could be decent. Much like what we had in Vancouver here with Ben Hutton, where he was miscast as a top four, and his numbers weren't awful offensively, and his time on ice per game, he was playing a ton, but the defensive numbers were just terrible because he was being played in situations he shouldn't have been. And last but not least, apparently I owe the internet an apology. I caught wind of Reddit. Apparently, the Hockey Jersey Reddit melts down over me liking Kings jerseys. I like Kings jerseys. I've always liked Kings jerseys, even though I've never been a huge fan of the Kings. The other thing that I thought was funny yesterday was there were a lot of people who didn't watch the countdown until that last video. So there's a lot of, well, where's this one? It was in the other parts of the countdown. This one should have been in there. No. And the thing is, too, it's a list of my favorite jerseys. So that's really what it is. It's a list of these are my favorite jerseys. And so I can't change what my favorites are. And it was a list that I've been working on since, man, I've had that Google form and I've been updating it regularly, I want to say for at least 6 months. So it's not something that I just threw together. It's something that, been 6 months. And not only that, but in the 2 or 3 videos that preceded the top 20, I kept saying there's a lot of Kings coming. Just so you guys know, just as an FYI. And the Burger King jersey for me is absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful because of its ugliness. And it's one of those things where the Nashville Predators, that ugly mustard third, it finished much higher than it should have in the countdown just because it's just so ugly. And I've always had an affection for that. Keep in mind, I am a Canuck fan, and I grew up idolizing that Flying V Canucks. That was my favorite team in the league. The Flying V I thought was fantastic when I was a kid. And yeah, I had an old ratty jersey with the Flying V when they were made with vinyls rather than the way they're done now. And I loved it. And I was so excited to have a Flying V jersey. And as a kid, it was all about the V. So, I'm just putting up here, sorry about the Kings jerseys, but it was a fun countdown to do, and I think for the people who watched it all the way through, I think they enjoyed it, and they would have known there was a lot of Kings coming up. And the funny part of it is this, as I said in that video, I don't cheer for the Kings. It has to be, it has to be darn near an apocalypse for me to be cheering for the Kings. You look back to the 1993 Stanley Cup Final, I was cheering for Montreal. And that was hard for me because as a Bruins fan, cheering for Montreal just makes you feel... Well, if you're a Montreal fan, imagine, or Toronto fan, imagine cheering for Boston in a situation. feel like you need one of those showers that you see like in nuclear radiation facilities where it's just one of those really deep scrubs. So, that that's kind of where I was at in '93, because man, I didn't want the Kings to win it, and I don't, I don't know what it was, but I will say their jerseys are pretty darn nice, and I have a ton of Kings jerseys, a lot of them. So I don't wear most of them until we do the whole countdown thing. So there you go, just sort of a fun thing to add on the end. And as some people have pointed out, well, it's his opinion, right? So it's his opinion, so that's can't be wrong. It's not like somebody can come to me and go, actually, Shannon, your favorite jersey is the Maple Leafs Coho back from 2007, and I go, you're right. Holy crap! What did I have that in the 280s for? That is my favorite jersey. Thank you. So, yeah, it's weird, but that's the internet, where the whole opinion thing becomes funny. It's sort of like yesterday. I did the video on averages, just who is on average the most consistent scorer of the last 3 years, and then all it was here's who scored the same amount of points every year for 3 years, and people are like, actually, I think your math is off. No. This is who's consistently scored the same amount of points. I said nothing about them being as effective, being as good. I said nothing about them getting better or getting worse. I just said, here's who scored the same amount of points. So if you're in a hockey pool and you're looking at who's probably going to score the same amount of points, these guys are pretty darn consistent. And that was it. There wasn't anything else to it. That's it. So anyways, there you go. News of the day kind of thing, and then adding in a little bit at the end. Thank you guys so much for the entertainment. I do enjoy this job most days. Most days I do. And thank you guys so much for all your support throughout the summer. It means a ton. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Have not already done so. And I am sure that we'll see more and more of the minor signings now as teams round out the rosters and they get the tryouts going. Popovich has Popovich has a tryout with Boston. I don't think he's going to make it, but the tryouts are what they are. Boston's defense is pretty darn deep, so for Popovich to make it, something would have to go wrong. Which with Boston's defense absolutely usually does. So there you go. Thank you guys so much again, and I will talk to you again soon.